Hi guys, my name is Tamara. I am the founder of drawaFence.com, and in 2026 we're very excited to be bringing fence companies new ways to handle their documentation and submittals as well as their drawings, including this series called What the Form. And in this, our very first episode, we're going to be talking about something that a lot of fence companies need to know more about, which is lien waivers. So if you are a fence company and you work in the commercial world, or you're planning to get into the commercial world, this video is for you. Right, so let's get right down to business about lien waivers. This is something that a lot of fence companies in the commercial, industrial, and government world are going to run into probably multiple times. So it's good that you understand it and that you know how to handle this kind of request. So first, what is a lien? A lien is basically a legal claim that someone has on something. So if you buy a car and you finance it through a bank, the bank will put a lien on the car, which basically means that they have a legal claim to the car. You can't sell the car without their permission, and so on and so on and so on. Sometimes liens happen before something happens. So, like when you're buying a car, the lien starts on the day that you buy the car. But in the construction world, liens are usually after the fact. So you've done work for someone, they haven't paid you, and you will go and put a lien on the property in order to enforce your right to get paid. So that brings us to the next question, which is what is a lien waiver? Now, a lien waiver is just another legal document that a customer might ask you for that waives your right to put a lien on that property. And as you can imagine, that is a bit of a risky proposition for fence companies because we want to have all the legal tools in our toolbox to be able to leverage our customer to pay us when we've done work for them. But there are some people who will ask for this kind of thing, and that brings us to another question that's very common, like who might ask you for a lien waiver? And the reality is, any customer you work for could potentially ask you for a lien waiver. But it's usually more on the commercial side. It's usually more industrial, government projects, and those kinds of things. So usually big corporations, or if you're working on a big project where there's a professional team that includes architects and engineers and stuff like that, they might ask you for a lien waiver as part of your payment packages. Or if you're working for a big commercial contractor, like a corporate company that does big projects, they typically ask for lien waivers on stuff like this as well. So yeah, if it's just a Joe public residential client that you're working for, that's a big red flag, and I would seriously consider whether you want to work on that project at all. But if it's a big company or government department or something like that, then that's usually part of the process, so it's something you should consider. Which brings us to the next question. Should you give your client a lien waiver? And that really depends again on who the customer is. If you're working for someone like a government department that isn't, they're not going to go bankrupt, they're not going to run out of money, they're going to be able to pay you, even if maybe they pay you a little bit slower, um, it would be worth your while to consider giving them a lien waiver when you do your payment packages. But again, maybe just price that into your bid. So maybe make allowance that the payments might be a little slower, which is why they're asking you for a lien waiver so that you don't go and lien their property, and so on. You might also want to do credit checks and reference checks the same way as if you were affording someone credit. And usually, people who ask you for lien waivers are people that you're going to be extending credit to anyway. So they're going to be paying you 30 days or 45 days or 60 days or whatever their payment terms are. So you're going to probably go through the process of doing a credit check on them anyway and checking their references and so on. So you want to make sure you do all of that stuff. And then the next thing you probably going to want to know is what goes into a lien waiver. And to show you more of that, we're going to switch over to the lien waiver template generator that's on the drawfence.com website. And I'm going to walk you through that and all the different parts of it. And if you are a Drawfence user, you can go and try the format yourself. If not, you can sign up for a free trial and you'll find it under the Documents tab, and give it a try. It does cover everything that is involved in a lien, and it's very simple and easy to use. And you'll see underneath each of the form fields there's a description and an explanation about why that information is required. So it's very self-explanatory, and we're going to jump over to that video so I can show you how it works. Thank you for listening, and our next episode is going to be about quotation terms, which ones you should be using, what's important, and so on. So if you found this episode of What the Form useful, give us a follow on YouTube, and we'll be dropping more content all the time. Thanks for listening. Bye. So now that you know what a lien waiver is and when it's used and why your customer is asking you for one, I'm going to show you very quickly the form that we've built into DrawFence, because obviously while we've been revolutionizing how you do your fence drawing submittals, we kind of thought, well, documentation is still a problem, because a lot of fence companies, especially those who are working in commercial and industrial and government projects, they're being asked for all these documents that they don't have, or they've got a Word template that somebody deleted part of it 12 years ago, and they kind of have to cobble it together, or there's a scanned version that's been photocopied 20 times that they're sending out to their customers that kind of looks like you would expect it to look. And all of those things are part of marketing and branding for fence companies. So we thought, why not build in documents that are quick and easy to use, and that reflect your company in the professional way you want to be seen. So if you go to documents on our US site, we haven't built this onto our Canadian site yet, but we are planning to do a massive upgrade there as soon as we finished working on all the upgrades on the US site. And then you're going to see a list of all the different kinds of documents we have over here, but also some shortcuts over here. So you can see the exact forms, and there's quite a lot of them for all kinds of things from health and safety to environmental to quality management and everything in between. And we are adding to that all the time, just like we add to our fence drawings all the time based on what our users tell us they need. So I'm just going to click and go to the lien waiver form, which works exactly the same way as all the other forms on our website. You don't need to know how to use a word processor. You don't need to know how to insert graphics. You don't need to know anything like that. Just like you don't need to know how to use CAD to use our drawing generators. This is done so that you can literally complete the form in 2 minutes and be ready to send it to your customer when they ask for it. So I'm just going to run through everything here. So the company information, as always, comes from your company profiles and your logos over here. You can set up 3 of them, and it'll be for, let's say, 3 estimators, 3 branches, whatever it's going to be. And then that information is going to appear on these forms. So over here, you would just select the company that you want to use and the logo that you want to use for your form, and then you would type in some information. So your project name, your client name, I've already put all of that in, your lien waiver report number, and then whether it's a revision or not. In most cases, this isn't going to be a revision because this is just kind of a standard document that you would do. So you're not really going to want to be doing revisions, but just in case someone has requested you change something, like maybe take out one of the exclusions or something like that, you can do that over there. And we do recommend, if you are making a change to something like that, generate a new form and call it revision 2 or revision 1 or whatever it might be, so that you have that paper trail and you can say it was originally this when we did the first version, and then it changed to this and it changed to that. A lot of people don't realize how important it is to be able to follow the paper trail on things like this. And you usually don't realize that until you get to the point where there's a dispute or something legal happens and you have to be able to prove what happened. And that's when you're going to be really glad you've got paperwork. So this date over here would be the date that you are doing your lien waiver, which is just today's date. And then you've got the job location. And this is very important on a lien waiver because it liens a specific piece of property. So you usually either need a street address or a legal land description, sometimes both. Um, that is so that you can make sure that you are giving them a lien waiver for the specific piece of property that you would be liening if you were going to put a lien on something. And you will notice on these forms, all of our documents and stuff, we've got these little notes underneath a lot of the fields. And this is just to explain what that field is for or what you need to put in there and stuff like that. Again, that's to make this as easy as possible so you don't have to think too hard about what you're doing, and you don't have to go off to Google and try and find things and stuff like that. And then the same here, the owner of the property, because very often as fence companies, we don't work directly for the owner. We will maybe work for a contractor or someone like that who is working for the owner. So you want to make sure you've got the property owner's name in there, because when you lien a property, you would use their name on the documentation. It would be against the person who actually owns the property, not necessarily the person you are working for. And again, that note underneath there just explains all of that so that you can put the right information in there. So sometimes this would be a person's name, but it could also be a corporation that owns the property and so on. This is also why it's very important to find this information out when you are signing contracts on these kinds of jobs, so that you know exactly who the owner of the property is, so that you can do all the things if you need to do a lien. And then we get to the waiver information. So you can either do a conditional or an unconditional waiver. We strongly recommend that, unless it's somebody like a government department where you know they're going to pay you, um, I would always lean towards giving them a conditional lien waiver, because that is dependent on a payment being received. So if you give them an unconditional waiver, you got a bit less leverage, and you could end up losing some money if it's someone who goes out of business or something like that. So you really want to be very careful about who you give an unconditional lien waiver to. But I'm going to show you both, so just give me a second. Next is a progress bill number. And again, you want to split your lien waivers up to be progress bill specific, because then you're only giving them that waiver on a small chunk of the money associated with the project. You don't want to give them a lien waiver for the whole lot on day one, and you have no guarantees that you're going to get paid. Lien waiver and liens themselves are kind of the leverage that we use to make sure that people pay us. And when you waive them, you are taking some of the leverage away from yourself. So be very careful about that. And again, make it progress bill specific, and you've got up to 10 progress bills here, which should cover most fence projects, as well as the final payment. So just select the one that you're doing this particular lien waiver for, and then also the date that that lien waiver or that progress bill was done or will be done. You can just select that there as well. Yeah, keep it specific so that there's no like blanket waiver for the whole project, because then you get yourself into a lot of trouble. Next would be your name. So again, even though you've got your company information being entered over here, you want to put your name specific. Like you might have your company information set up as your branch name or whatever. This is specifically your name and your role, so that that can be entered into the lien waiver that way. Then we've got these exceptions, and we've got a few options here. We've got retention and holdback, contract rights, unpaid approved extras, disputed extras, and so on, and the option to enter an exception manually. So what all of this is, let's say you've had a change order for some extra work that you've done on the site, or you've done some work on the site, but it's as part of a separate quote and it's not part of the main project, and so on and so on and so on. You might want to mention something like that there, or any other kind of exception to this lien waiver that you want to add there. And all that really does is it says this lien waiver does not protect you from being lien for not paying for this work. And again, the same thing for excluded scope. So anything that's not included as part of the waived work over there. There's a place to put in an amount, so whatever the amount of a disputed claim is. And this happens often if you're doing let's say you're doing a progress bill and you tell your customer you've done X amount of work, and they come back to you and they say, no, We don't think you've done that much, we think you've done this much, and they pay you based on that. Now you can put that disputed claim amount in there, which is the difference between what you claimed and what they paid you, so that you're saying that you are not agreeing to that and that this does not waive your right to lien them for that amount of money. And then you get your previously disputed charge orders and change orders and extras. And again, that is the same thing. You've put in a change order request for something and they've said, no, we don't agree with you for these reasons, but you don't want to give them a lien waiver for that change because you still want to get paid for it. That's where you put it. Once you're happy with all of that, you generate your document and give it a second, and it does what DrawFence does. It takes all the information that you've put into this form over here and it puts it directly onto the template that is ready to generate and send to your customer. So as you can see, we've just selected conditional over here, conditional, and it will say it's a conditional lien waiver over there. If I were to change this to unconditional, and generate my document, it would change it to unconditional over here, and it would change some of the language over here. So it will put in the language over here that's specific to an unconditional lien waiver. But we want to keep it at conditional for now, so I'm just going to change that back and regenerate my document. There we go. So now it's telling me it's a conditional lien waiver for Progress Build 3 payment. Tells me all the project information, tells me which progress bill, what the date is, and then it gives me a space over here to, because this is conditional, it's conditional on a payment being received from your customer. So once you receive that payment, you can enter the information over here, and then you can complete the rest of the document and you can send it off to your customer. The exceptions that you've put into the form would show up over here, so it's specifically excluded from the waiver. So anything that falls into that category is not covered by this lien waiver. And then there's a section for your signature and authorization, because you have to sign and authorize. And again, it's filled it in with your name, your role, and the date that you are issuing this lien waiver. So you just have to sign it, print it, sign it, and then you have to take this form to a notary to get it notarized so that you can send it to your customer. And once you are happy with this form, I've been talking, but it's taken me, let's say, 9 minutes to complete with all the talking. It should take you between 2 and 5 minutes to generate these forms, depending on the complexity of the form and, you know, how much practice you've had. And this is what it will look like when you print it out. We do put in this title block on all of our documentation. So again, there's consistency and continuation between all of the documents that you generate through DrawFence, which is a big part of branding and marketing. You want to make sure that your customers know what your documents look like and know that they are coming from your company. And that is something very important for that. That's why we've got all your company information and your logo and so on. Then we've got all the information that you filled in, the waiver information, and so on. And then down here, we've got the signature and authorization. And then the last page is the notarization. And again, this is a PDF, so you can just download this, email it. It will email to the person who has generated the document automatically as well. And there are some forms in our document section where you can put in, let's say, the health and safety officer's email, so it'll automatically send a copy of the document to them, or to procurement if it's a requisition or something like that. Yeah, so really that is what DrawFence documents are designed to do. When you are saying what the form, you can just go to our website and we've got all these pre-built templates that are really quick and easy to use and that look really professional when you generate them, and you don't have to wonder what it is because we've got all of these little notes over here to tell you exactly what's going on. And you can do things like lien waivers. We've even got a quote form where you can generate quotes with pricing and things like that in them. So there's a lot going on, and we hope that you will check it out. This is part of the service that we offer to our subscribers. There is a free trial, so if you haven't tried it out yet, please feel free to give it a go. And if there's anything you notice that is missing on our site, whether it's a drawing, a document, or something else, please contact us and let us know, because we are very much user-driven and we build things that our customers need. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I will be back in another episode of What the Form to explain some more contract documents to you and show you how to get them done quickly and correctly. Thanks for listening. Bye.